I want to talk with you about a few things that I wish I had known before I had my surgery. Things I wish someone had told me. Hey y'all, hey, Erica with Time to Shrink. I wanted to sit here in my favorite comfy chair in the kitchen and have a chat with y'all about things that I wish someone had told me about before surgery. Things maybe I didn't know or didn't think about. Drink slowly. Slowly, y'all. They tell us to practice ahead of time, but I was just like, whatever. I don't care. I'll figure it out later. So when you first start drinking, you're going to want tiny, tiny little sips. And you just do a little sip. Wait 15 seconds at least or so. A little sip. And also, in the hospital, early on with drinking, it helps to walk between sips. Also, it just seems to help it go down. So not only are you needing to walk to get rid of the gas, you're needing to walk to just kind of help things flow through better. It really, really does help, y'all. I know that sounds crazy. Number two, if you have to do the swallow test, be prepared for the stuff that you have to drink to be nasty. It's nasty. No one told me that it was nasty. You kind of expect that it's nasty, but the big thing is you have to drink it fast. Now, I just told you, drink slowly, sip, sip, sip. But for this test, it's just a very small amount of liquid, but they need to have you drink it fast. You have to drink it really fast so that they see it go down. So no one told me that I was gonna have to drink it fast. And that really freaked me out because everybody had said, drink slowly, drink slowly, drink slowly. I hadn't had anything to drink yet. And this first thing that they're giving me, they want me to drink it fast. It freaked me out. And I was in Mexico. The radiologist or the radiology tech that was doing it only spoke Spanish. So he and I were, not eye to eye on what was happening. And I was really freaked out. So if you know that, then you won't be freaked out. The other thing that comes with that is sometimes that liquid will go right through you. So you may expect to have some diarrhea that day, maybe 1 or 2 times, maybe a bunch of times. That may be TMI, but it's something I wish I had known. Definitely what happened to me. I had diarrhea like 8 times that day, y'all. I know TMI, but while we're talking about poo, something that you may or may not know is that post-op constipation is a really big deal. Think about it, you've been doing liquids for days or weeks beforehand, so you don't really have much built up in there, and then post-op you're only drinking liquids also. So while you may get some diarrhea initially from that swallow test, constipation over the next weeks and months could be a huge issue for you. One thing, and this may be my nurse hat coming on, but one thing that I totally suggest is that you start taking stool softeners a couple days, 2 to 3 days before your surgery, and continue taking them afterwards. If you don't have an issue at all in the next week or so, great, no big deal, stop taking them. But you don't want to get to the point where you're so constipated that you need like medical intervention. There's lots of things we could talk about if I put my nurse hat on how to deal with constipation, but for this talk, I just want to let you know that it's a possibility and to be getting prepared for that. Maybe I'll do a whole video on poo, y'all. Another one is when to go back to work. A lot of times people have in their head that they're going to go back to work in X amount of days because that person went back to work in X amount of days. You need to base when you're going back to work based on what kind of job you have, y'all. If you're a nurse, you're not going back to work in 3 days and lifting patients and pushing patients and doing all of that. It's not happening. If you sit at a desk, you could possibly go back to work within that first week. But you need to really discuss that with your healthcare provider and figure that out ahead of time so that you know your plan. And another thing, eating slowly is so important, y'all, because if you have one bite too many, it literally stacks up in your esophagus from your stomach into your esophagus, and it just sits there. And it's very likely going to come up. You're very likely going to throw it up. That has happened to me more times than I can tell you. I have such a hard time with eating slowly. And when I say eat slowly, I mean take a bite and literally chew that thing to death When you first are out of surgery and you're doing liquids and then full liquids, you can kind of get a false sense of security because it feels like you can just sip, 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 and you never really feel extremely full unless you took a really big gulp or something. But as soon as you start introducing real food, introducing soft foods, that's when this matters. You need to eat slowly. Chew, chew, chew that food 20, 40 times until it's like nothing and you can swallow it. And then you need to wait like 1 to 2 minutes before you have another bite. Do that process over and over again, especially right out of the gate, especially when you just go to soft and then head more towards regulars. You need to let your pouch see how it's going to do. Different foods are going to hit differently, and this was another thing I didn't know, was that the same food could hit differently different days. That was a mind boggler for me. I definitely want to share that with y'all, that the restriction is different on different days. Some days I'm 4 months out, some days I can eat 2 eggs, some days I can eat half an egg, and if I eat half an egg and then start into the other half of it and have been doing it too fast, I'm gonna throw it up. Even though I just had 2 eggs yesterday. I know that sounds really weird. Another thing is, things that you liked pre-surgery, you may not like anymore. Sweetness levels may just really bother you. They may make you feel sick. If you've had any kind of weight loss surgery, you can, what they call, dump. Some people say you cannot with VSG. I don't think that's true. I think some people do dump, and basically what that means is it's usually off of something really, really sweet. You start getting real sweaty, you start feeling shaky, oftentimes you'll throw up. Oftentimes you like get super, super sleepy and you'll have to lay down for half an hour or more. It can be very, very, very uncomfortable. So while you eat things slowly, you also need to realize that things that you might have loved, you might not like anymore, or your sleeve might not like. One example for me was I love spicy food. So far, every single time I try spicy food, I throw it up. That's not true for everybody at all. This is so individual. Another thing is, I used to get sick off of eggs. Now I love me some eggs. So it's just strange. Things are different. It doesn't make sense because, especially with VSG, they're literally just making your stomach smaller. But for some reason, there's a lot more changes going on with it. All right, what else? The blood thinner shots, every doctor does not order these, but if they have you do blood thinner shots, then don't freak out about that or worry about that ahead of time. The nurses at the hospital will teach you how to do it. And also, it's really not a big deal, but it's a blood thinner. It literally thins your blood. So the point of prick, or the point where it's inserted, often bruises. So you could get all these bruises all over your belly, because it's usually your belly where you put the shot in, and people freak out about that. It's not a big deal. It's literally a blood thinner, so it's going to thin your blood. So right there at the injection site, a little bit of it will leak and cause bruising in that area. It's not a big deal at all. It's not pretty, but it's not a big deal. It's not something to worry about. Another thing, straws. It's like a rumor that straws are not okay. Some people do way better with straws. Some people get their water in so much better with a straw. Some people feel like it makes them drink too much and it's not good for them. A straw is just something you're gonna have to experiment with. I personally do better with a straw. I'm a nurse. I've taken care of many gastric bypass patients and weight loss surgery patients in my years, and some do well with straws, some don't. It's not a big no-no. One thing that is a big no-no is carbonated drinks. They just don't feel good. They're not really good for us, like Cokes and things like that. You know, some people love to drink like Perrier and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that until you've had surgery. Once you've had this surgery, the carbonation, it just hurts. It doesn't feel good. Just don't even try it. It doesn't feel good. Okay? Moving on. You are going to have weird rumbly noises. Weird rumbly noises. Crazy noises. You're gonna gurgle. Your new sleeve, you didn't have VSG and you had gastric bypass, you still have this symptom. It talks to you. It gurgles. People around can hear it. It's strange. It's annoying. Don't love it. It usually happens mostly around eating times. Like after I've eaten for a while, it'll talk to me for a while. Another thing is, when they tell you not to drink before or after, It's important because the liquid fills up your pouch just like the food would. It goes through a little bit faster, but when you fill that pouch up with food, if you go to drink after while it's still full, it's just gonna sit on top of it, up into that esophagus, and it's gonna come up. It hurts, it doesn't feel good, nobody likes to throw up. So you need to wait that half an hour. It's really important. It really actually is important. And when you don't do it, you'll learn really quickly why you should. So just wait. If I've eaten like a dense protein, sometimes I need to wait up to an hour. You'll get used to knowing how you feel. You know, that first sip in half an hour, see how that feels. If it feels kind of strange still, or you still feel kind of full, push it off to 45 minutes or an hour. But other than that, when it's not around your eating windows, sip like it's your full-time job. People don't tell you how hard it is to get that in the first few weeks. It's like a full-time job, y'all. I'm telling you, walking and sipping are your full-time job that first couple weeks. Your protein is not as important those first few days, that first week even, as your liquids. You need to hydrate. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. If some of the liquid that you get in is from a protein shake, great. But the emphasis needs to be on hydration. And you need to sip and sip and sip and sip and sip. Do you get what I'm saying? Sip, sip, sip. And sip some more. It's so important, y'all. Okay? I guess that's probably a little nurse hat too, but that is the most important. That is the biggest reason people end up going to the emergency room, is they get themselves dehydrated. You cannot go 2 hours without a sip, because you have to literally take teeny tiny sips. You can't miss that. From the time you get up to the time your head lays on that pillow, you have a container in your hand and you are sipping. Okay? So important. Another thing is heartburn. If you didn't have heartburn beforehand, you may have heartburn afterwards, and it can be bad. The heartburn can be extreme. The doctors almost always, 99% of the time, they're going to send you home on something called Protonix or some other protein pump inhibitor for acid reflux. You have to take those every single day, and if you don't, you're going to feel the heartburn, because our stomach has gone down 80%, right? But the stomach itself didn't get the message to make less acid, so it's producing the amount of acid that your big old stomach made, but now you just have this tiny one. So there's so much acid there, and it doesn't have anything, it doesn't know what to do with it. If you don't take the reflux meds, you're going to get reflux. You're going to get acid reflux. Now they say within the first 3 months or so, your stomach should figure it out and it should start producing less, an appropriate amount, and then you'll be able to stop taking those. Some people, the stomach just doesn't get the message in 3 months and they can't go off of it, and it becomes a really big deal. But in the beginning, just know that's normal and you really need to take it along with your vitamins. Something that I wish people had told me about my vitamins, y'all, is that I might not be able to stomach them. The vitamins that I was taking before surgery, I couldn't handle them. My stomach was so nauseous, no matter what kind of pill I put in there or chewable I put in there, it came right back up. Could not handle it. And that's pretty normal. You may need to find an alternative vitamin. I would not stock up on tons of vitamins because you don't know what's going to sit well with you. I ended up having to do a patch multivitamin, and it took me a good couple months before I could swallow most of my vitamins. I still use the patch multivitamin, but I do take up some of my other vitamins by mouth. That's everything. I hope these were helpful. These are all things that I wish I had known, or I felt like patients would do better knowing, so I wanted to share them with y'all. I will check back with y'all for another video before too long. Bye, y'all.